Good evening. We'll open the meeting tonight for Northborough School Committee meeting for Wednesday, April 3rd, 2019. It's at 7:01 p.m. We're going to open the agenda this evening with the public hearing on the FY20 budget.
Thank you, Sue. This is an annual event. It happens following the month that the school committee votes and approves the next fiscal year budget, and the school committee approved FY 2020 budget was actually approved on February 6th. So this is a formal reading into the record of a synopsis of that budget. There are copies of the more lengthy version of the approved budget for distribution here this evening on the back table. There are also copies of this document at central office, and it will be available online, and it's also available at the town hall. The budget document is presented by Department of Elementary Education Financial Fund Codes, and it summarizes the line items that are represented in the FY20 approved budget. We will read into record, and it is followed by audience sharing in terms of questions that might be asked of the approved budget. And this is the last step before going to town meeting. So I'd like to begin by sharing that the Northborough School Committee is committed to providing an excellent education to the youth of our towns by approving an educationally sound and fiscally responsible budget in collaboration with town government. Each year, the Northborough School Committee identifies its budget priorities, and these priorities serve to create a framework for discussions and decisions which take place throughout the budget process. As mentioned, a copy of the FY 2020 public hearing document and school committee voted and approved line item budget are available this evening on our district website and at central office and town offices as well. As part of this public hearing, I will be providing the total of the FY 2020 school committee approved budget by financial categories of expenditures as required by DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We begin with function 1000. District leadership and administration, which includes the Northborough School District's apportionment of general administration, district administration, finance, and administrative services, $838,055. Function 2000 includes instructional services, school building leadership, teaching salaries, professional development for teachers and support staff, general supplies, instructional resources and equipment, instructional technology, guidance and counseling, $12,962,912. Function 3000, other student services, attendance, health services, transportation, food services, and student body activities, including athletics and activities represented in the operational budget, $1,052,172. This is offset by student body activity fees collected in the amount of approximately $20,000. Function 4000, operation and maintenance of plant, includes custodial services, heating of buildings, utility services, maintenance of grounds, maintenance of buildings, food services, network and telecommunications for infrastructure purposes, $1,712,178. Function 5000 includes fixed charges, rentals and leases, $28,988. These fund codes repeat. If you have the budget in front of you, you'll notice they mirror the regular education portion of the FY 2020 budget, and now we'll review the same function codes as they apply to special education services. Fund Code 1000, legal services and administrative technology, $35,000. 2000, Fund Code 2000, instruction, districts, again, apportionment of Director of Student Support Services, Assistant Director of Student Support Services, teaching salaries, professional development, instructional materials, and psychological services, $6,204,753. Function 3000 includes other student services, transportation and health services, $771,495. Function 4000, which is the maintenance of equipment specifically within the special education area, $8,400. Function 5000, fixed charges, in this case lease agreements, of $2,186. Function 9000 includes programs for non-public schools, $1,312,419, which is offset again by circuit breaker reimbursement each and every year. for a total operational budget for FY 2020 voted and approved $24,928,558, representing an overall increase of $662,965, or an incremental increase of 2.73%.
So now I'll open it up to the audience for any questions on the budget. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item of business. We are going to swap the order slightly. Oh, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. I'm going to do action on the minutes for March 6, 2019.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
I
Joe.
move that we accept the Northborough School Committee open meeting minutes from Wednesday, March the 6th, 2019, as stated.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Then, moving on to the next item of business, we're going to swap it out and go to old business for the voting location. Because we have some people in the audience that the superintendent may want to introduce.
Thank you. This is actually, it's under old business. While we haven't had this conversation too often this year, we've had this conversation in many years past. And this item really refers to where the town of Northborough votes. And the conversations have continued as we've explored both on the school and the town level, and in collaboration with the town, the feasibility of moving the voting sites initially out of the K-5 elementary schools. There have been continued concerns about access when voting. It's very difficult to sort of cordon off a section of the school, because when you enter our K-5 elementary system schools, each of the schools, you enter right into sort of the public domain of students and staff. While our Northborough Police Department has always provided, as well as our staff, a very secure environment, we do recognize that there may be a preferential change of venue that would accommodate not only the concerns of the community, but also provide some, I want to say, relief to our police department in terms of providing that security. But just to look at other options that might be available to the town, and in collaboration with the schools, accommodate those other changes. We do have two folks with us this evening who have been part of this conversation for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years perhaps, and on very short notice, they absolutely were willing to be present this evening. But it also provides an opportunity to hear from the other two partners in that triangle of conversation that has taken place over the years. I think the only person absent is John Kader, town administrator, and he has very much been supportive of this ongoing conversation. It's important to note that we have looked at other venues in town. We've discussed private property, we've discussed the regional high school, but for many different reasons, those have been either unavailable or ruled out because of access and other circumstances that were involved in changing that site location. So Andy Dowd, our town clerk, and Chief Liver, seems like we spent all day together today, Chief Liver, are both here this evening to speak to the change in venue. And that change would be to move all of the voting out of the K-5s into the Melican School. I have to applaud Principal Michelle Carb, who has been very enthusiastic and willing to engage in this opportunity, and really looking at this as an opportunity for our students to become involved in the process and to do some exciting things at Melican. So with those four present, school, principal, town, and police, I think we have a good representation of some of the conversations that have taken place to reassure folks that this change is a good change. It's a pilot. We chose to do this year because it's a small election, and it would give us an opportunity to sort of examine the practice and improve upon the practice where needed. We have, the town of Southborough has moved in this direction. I only bring this up because we do have some good dialogue that we can engage in at the town level and at the school level to determine how best to set this up in a middle school environment, or in a middle school, and it's been very successful. And now, Andy, you've been in conversation with Jim Haggerty as well. So with that, that's before us this evening. And it's the will of the chair, how you'd like to proceed with that. I'd like to hear from Bill, Chief Liver,
I won't put anybody on the
Andy.
spot if they don't want to speak, but.
From here, do you want to?
I think.
Oh, on camera,
On
Chief.
camera.
Come on down.
I'm going to let you start.
Just don't know if you want to share your thoughts on the
Certainly.
change.
Well, as the superintendent said, we've been discussing this for a long time. There has been concerns, legitimate concerns, about the voting happening at the elementary schools. And a lot of that does have to do with the design of those buildings and the difficulty in segregating the voters from the student population when school's in session. We had initially looked at the Algonquin Regional High School property. The challenge there is the student body, the general traffic flow is very active, parking is very challenging. I have a daughter there currently myself, and she tells me daily that it's difficult to find a space. So if you added in voters to that complex, along with the traffic flow, it would be a very challenging event. So we looked at pretty much all the other town-owned buildings in the community that could potentially serve as voting locations. Focusing, obviously, we had ADA compliance surveys done by the state at all the potential sites. And there are some communities that have looked at private sites. The challenge with that, if the town does not own the building, you don't have control, and you don't have, if it's currently an open facility that could serve this year, next year it may be leased and unavailable. It's not a good fit. So after looking at all those options and deciding which would work best for the community overall, and as Christine said, we have a strong partnership between the schools and the town working together on a lot of things, and this has been another example of that collaboration. This facility here at Melican seemed to make the most sense. There's sufficient parking for most of our events. The nice thing about the design of this building is if we were to utilize either the cafeteria space or the gym space in the wing that's pretty much segregated from the typical day-to-day student classroom population, it's much easier from a security standpoint, and I'm sure Chief Live will speak to that, to ensure that there's no overlap between the voters that are coming in and the students, and they remained segregated and cordoned off appropriately. As I mentioned, the parking here is also fairly plentiful. I've spoken with Michelle Carb regarding having the teachers and staff park in the back on the courts for that day, which would open up a lot more space. We'll also try to put out messaging to the voters so they're aware when buses are coming in and out in the morning and afternoon, when school is in session, such as this particular election day, and also when the typical parent pick-up and drop-off times are, so they can hopefully avoid that as much as possible. And we can also predict when our more active times for voter turnout is going to take place. So I think it's a good fit. I think we have a great plan. I think it's going to work well. I always tell people, when I've talked to many parents over the years regarding safety and voting, I'm a parent of 3 children, all of whom have gone through the system here in Northborough. My youngest is a senior up at Algonquin now. I'm married to a teacher, so I very much understand both sides of the issue. And I think this is a great fit. I know we have a great plan. We have a great partner with Chief Liver and the police department to ensure, from a safety standpoint, that it goes well. And I'm really looking forward to the opportunity. And as the superintendent said, Michelle Carb has been fantastic in welcoming the option here at her facility. And I think we're going to work well together, and I look forward to that. So.
Well, clearly, staffing for security at 4 different locations is a stretch on our services, where consolidation obviously allows me to put more people here. We'll have a significant number of offices here because it's a pilot, and we want it to work. and we want to allay any fears. So we'll have officers for traffic control out in front for when the buses arrive. But during the school day, when school is in session, there'll be a considerable number of officers present. All of the exits and access points from the cafeteria to the school will have officers there. All the doors will be covered in the hallway between the, I guess, from the academic wing to the cafeteria area. There'll be someone in the hallway there, but there'll be more than sufficient coverage. The school will be probably the most secure facility in Massachusetts on that day, I can assure you. So,
Thank you.
I also wanted to add a couple other points that we've looked at the master calendar for the year, and we're trying to maximize those opportunities when we could possibly not be in session on voter days, one of which, of course, is always the town elections, state, national elections in November. But we also recognize that with the presidential election window, there are perhaps additional voting days, and we have some flexibility with our district-wide professional development days, and where it's feasible to move those days to a voting day, we're looking at that as well, and we may be able to capture one of the days. That is not suggesting in any way that all that we've talked about is anything but safe and secure, and access from students also cordoned off, and access for community members good with the routing plans and the parking plans that have been discussed. But wherever we can, again, alleviate stress on the school, we certainly are looking to that. Michelle and I have had a conversation about, looking at her parent conferences and potential field trips and those kinds of things that are routinely scheduled also, and sort of maximizing those days and marrying them with election days. So we've already identified a couple options as well, just to limit the concerns. I think.
How is lunch being handled here?
I was just going to suggest we turn it over to Michelle for the details.
Sure. So first, thank you to both of you. I do think this is an opportunity for us. Our 8th grade social studies curriculum is shifting to civics, so to me this is a perfect fit, and I am excited about partnering with you. At this point, I have met with Kyle Parsons, Food Services Director, and we are planning some cold lunch options, and we will be using the hallway and the gym. So we want to make sure that students have options around food, and we're going to try to have sort of like a picnic kind of a feel and get the kids excited and possibly be able to try some new foods. So we're going to try to make it an exciting day around lunch. It will be different for us, but we're excited to work together and try something new. So we are still working out the details, but we have had preliminary discussions, and we think this might be an opportunity around lunch and trying some different foods as well. So,
Okay, thank you.
sure.
I have several questions. Thank you for all your support and for coming here tonight, and especially I think for the administration, because that was brought up to us way back in September by parents that were in the audience and had a concern about the safety at each of the buildings. So I'd like to applaud the administration for taking this as a serious issue, and along with all principals, because you all are involved in somehow, but especially Michelle, and to be proactive and say we're not going to wait another year. Let's see what we can do for the next election, and especially when it's a small election, it's not a presidential, so let's work this out and see how it goes. I have a couple questions. I'm really concerned about the buses at dismissal and with parents. Do you see having more of a police presence, especially at both ends of Lincoln Street, to facilitate this? Because we have more kids that are walking.
we can take care of that.
Okay.
Yep, we can put an officer at the 2 crosswalks on either side of the building, one at Pleasant and Lincoln, and the crosswalk at the far end of the driveway.
Just so that, when there's dismissal and kids walking, especially, I would think at this one here at Lincoln, and because it's a sharp corner and people may not be aware of it.
Yeah, for that short period of time, when the buses are leaving, the walkers are going, I can use my day shift patrols and assign them at that location.
Okay. And then I think this would be through you, Chief, also, is that I was thinking about the handicap position, parking positions that we have out there right now. I think there's like maybe 4 or 5, but I'm thinking if you have some of the volunteers at the day of the voting that are checking in addresses and that work, they may be taking some of those spots. So is there any way, it's a temporary situation, but is there any way that there could be designated, if you think it's necessary, it's just a question.
I can speak to that. We've had that discussion already, and we plan to designate additional temporary spaces for that exact reason, to ensure that there is enough space for folks that may need to utilize handicap spots that day to enter the building. So that will definitely be part of our plan for the day.
And it would still be nice to have the space designated for parent, let's say if a child gets sick during the day, so the parent has to come here in an emergency situation, that they don't have to go searching. I see this being busy, but maybe it's just, it's just me. But, you know, just so that the parent is not double parking or something, you know, I know there are some places, I think, that are designated for parents. But just as long as we keep those spots for the parents also. And are you going to have more volunteers, and I guess it goes to Andy, are you going to have more volunteers to check the credentials coming in? Now that we have one spot, usually we have 2 people in the beginning and 2 people at the end.
Right. The as far as the check-in, we have to be careful with the terminology used, because ID is not required for voting. But the check-in process it remains the same, and that's a typical point that people don't realize. The 4 precincts are still required for the town. So even though we're consolidating to one location, they'll still be divided into 4 precincts, precincts 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you are currently a Proctor school voter, you're precinct 1, you would still check in at precinct 1.
Yeah.
They'll have the same amount of staff to check you in. You'll vote, you'll check out. Very similar process. So that part remains the same, just they're all in a consolidated spot. I also, from my end, I plan to have extra staffing just because it is a new site, and people may show up and not realize that they're precinct 2, which would be Lincoln Street School. So we're going to try to come up with some creative signage, and we're required by law to send a postcard notification to all households about this change. So that will certainly help, and we'll do a lot of outreach, you know, through the website, social media, you know, signboards that DPW has to direct people and get the word out. So we'll have plenty of friendly folks on hand to help the voters, you know, come in and have a good experience here.
Okay, thank you very much. And my last question, I think, is for Michelle. I know in the past we've still had the PTO, I know they do, at each of the schools in, back in November, they get a lot of money from the bake sales. But after listening to the parents and concerned, I was still concerned when I went to vote that there was a child, even with a parent, outside of the secure areas doing a bake sale. Do you plan on having a PTO bake sale on that day?
Not at this point, no. This is this is a pilot, so we want to get the kinks worked out, and so the plan right now is no. And at this point, the PTO doesn't even know that the voting is changing to a no location, so we haven't even talked about it, but no.
That was always my concern with the safety, even if it's 1 or 2 students out there. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you.
We will be sending communication home from the schools, from the district office, in collaboration with Melican, to all of our parents in the community, so they're well aware of it, and we'll coordinate that through Andy's office as well, in terms of their notification. Thank you.
Thank you.
So our next item of business is a presentation on preschool.
We're excited to welcome Jennifer Henrys to the table, to the presentation table this evening. I think this is a first. We haven't really had a formal preschool presentation. As we know, a couple years ago, we made a shift for lots of good educational and student-centered reasons to move the one class of preschool that we had here in Northborough to the Early Childhood Center, where a lot of our students were already enrolled, receiving specialized services. And it has turned out to be a great experience for our students. And Jen is here this evening to give us an overview of the preschool experience. I might add, Jen, this is a new position for Jen. She was formerly a BCBA in the district, applied behavioral.
A board certified
Right,
behavioral.
thank you. Just for everyone's review, and she's done a great job in her new role as preschool coordinator. I know Marie Allen's in the audience as well. As Director of Student Support Services, this falls under Marie Allen's.
So as I said, I'm here tonight to talk to you about the Northborough and Southborough preschool program. So beginning in the 2017-2018 school year, all of our preschool classrooms were housed at the Mary Finn School. All of our classrooms include students from Northborough as well as students from Southborough, as well as they're all integrated classrooms. So they include children with special needs as well as general education students. There are a lot of advantages that we found to having all of our classrooms in one school. It has really allowed for increased collaboration between the teachers and the staff. It has also allowed us to maximize learning opportunities and supports for all students. So you'll see a lot of cross-grouping between different preschool classrooms based upon student needs, and different teachers working together in different ways. It also has really allowed us to have more efficient delivery of related services, so speech and language pathology, occupational therapy, those sorts of things. These are just up here some pictures of some of our classrooms currently. We have 5 classrooms at the preschool level. So the students that we service within the preschool, as I said, come through a variety of different means. We have general education students. We have students with special education needs who are on IEPs. And those students are serviced within our preschool in a variety of different ways. So we have students who may be in one of our preschool classrooms receiving services. We also have students who may be receiving walk-in services at their home schools, perhaps for speech and language pathology or occupational therapy. And we also do a lot of consultation with parents and sometimes with outside preschools, depending on individual student situations. We are mandated by the state to engage in what's called Child Find, which basically means that we need to work with outside agencies that may be working with children of preschool age to tell them what our services are, what we offer, and how to access those services. So some of these agencies that we work with are early intervention. We're very closely collaborating with early intervention across the school year. I meet several times a year with the early intervention head to be aware of students that are currently receiving early intervention services, and work collaboratively with the families of those students and early intervention to kind of educate them on the process of the evaluation process and determining eligibility as they approach their 3rd birthday. We receive a lot of our preschool students sometimes through parent referral, which could mean that they have gone to a wellness checkup with their pediatrician and had concerns. So the pediatrician recommended that they be evaluated through the public schools, as well as we receive a lot of parent referrals for children that are in private preschools or daycares, and those teachers or service providers have indicated some need for concern. When we do Child Find, we send out letters to different pediatrician offices in the fall, different child care agencies, just so that all of those agencies will be aware of how a student could access services if they needed to. We currently have a total of 97 preschool students that are within our preschool classrooms at the Mary Finn School. 40% of those students are special education students, 60% are general education students, and out of that total number, we have 48% of our students which are English language learners and speak more than one language at home, and those families represent a total of 20 different languages. So that is, a lot of our students speak different languages at home, which has led us to really look at how we're providing services to those students, which recently we added a preschool ELL tutor position to better provide services to those ELL students. Over the last few years, we've made several changes to our program models. Historically, we've had a fair amount of trouble filling our general education slots, which has really presented some challenges with offering integrated classrooms. This year in particular, we've spent a lot of time seeking parent input through different surveys, some social media, holding open houses, just trying to get a feel for what schedules of classes would be most beneficial or preferred by parents. And that has really allowed us to shift our models again, just to maximize those programs and enrollment for our general education students. Primarily, what schedules parents are looking for general education students is full-day models, and that is something that historically the preschool has not provided. So this is just a slide just outlines how our models are kind of shifting. So for special education students for the 2018-19 school year, we had a variety of different half-day options. We had 2-day, 3-day, and 4-day half-day options. We also had a 4.5 full-day option, which that option is for students who have a variety of different needs that they need addressed in a lot of different domains. And moving into the next school year, we will have 2 options for special education students. Those will be 4-day half-day models, as well as the 4.5-day model will continue. For our general education students this year, we had a variety of half-day options. There were 4-day half-day options as well as 5-day half-day options. For the 2019-20 school year, we will still have some half-day options for 4-day or 5-day, but we will also have 4-day or 5-day full-day options. So the great news is we're starting next year with all of our general education slots full at this time, which is really going to allow us to maximize the programming that we can provide for students. Within the preschool, as I said, we have 5 preschool classrooms. All of our classrooms deliver a very similar curriculum, and we all have a very similar philosophy that we're working from, regardless of which classroom you're in. So all of our classrooms provide rich language-based curriculum. All of the activities are multisensory with a real developmental approach to learning. We really embrace a whole child approach and seek to improve a child's skills across all different developmental domains. One of our biggest philosophies is that we believe that children learn through play. So if you were to enter our preschool classrooms, you'd see a lot of play going on, but obviously a lot of learning as well. And we have a strong commitment to helping children develop self-respect, positive peer relationships, self-control, and friendships. We have a lot of different staff that support our different preschool classrooms. All of our classrooms are led by a special education teacher. Many of them have tutors as well. We have several educational support professionals in all of our classrooms, as well as related service providers, so speech and language pathologists, OTs, PTs, and as I said, ELL support as well. For our curriculum, we believe that every child learns differently, and we really try to respect individual student learning styles and nourish their development. We have a very flexible but structured approach to teaching, and all of the lessons and thematic activities that happen within the preschool classroom are based on the Preschool Massachusetts curriculum frameworks and include language arts, math, science, social, emotional, motor skills, and sensory processing. The preschool uses a Connect for Learning curriculum, which incorporates lessons from 4 different learning domains. So there are language arts, math, science, and social emotional lessons. And the curriculum is focused on supporting child's development across 10 different comprehensive processes, and you'll see they're listed out there, but things like fostering cooperation, increasing curiosity, teaching children to learn by observing, those kinds of things. These are just some pictures of some different thematic lessons going on in the classroom. So you'll see at the top left there, people are learning about how icicles are made. And at the bottom left there, they're building igloos because they were learning about ice and winter. In the middle there, you'll see a child using what's called MapMan on the left to there, which is a pre-writing occupational therapy curriculum that all of our classrooms utilize. In addition to the curriculum and all the things I've already discussed, we offer targeted instruction in the domains of social thinking and emotional regulation. So we utilize a preschool social thinking curriculum called the Flexible Me, which is directly aligned with social thinking and zones of regulation, which are curriculums that are used from the kindergarten all the way up through the high school. So it's a nice basis for those students to get a firm foundation in those areas. All of our classrooms have opportunities to attend specials, so they all have art, music, physical education, and computers. Some of those special classes are taught by the specialists at the Finn School, others are led by the preschool teachers. And again, as I said, all of our curriculum is very hands-on, and we really engage in a lot of activities around science and technology. We offer a variety of different parent training opportunities for our parents within the preschool. So we have a monthly newsletter that goes home, and there's always a parent training corner with different parent training topics on there and ways to find more information. As well, we sent out a survey at the beginning of the year to find out what parents would be most interested in having training about, and offered different parent training opportunities for parents to come into the school and receive that training, and we're working on developing some web-based kind of online training opportunities, since that's an avenue that a lot of parents expressed interest in receiving parent training that way. Our children also go on field trips related to the curriculum that we're learning about. These are just some pictures of some of our students engaging in gym class. So for our gym class, our physical therapist and our occupational therapist work really collaboratively with the gym teacher and our preschool teachers to engage in gym activities that may also address different skills that individual students within the class need to be working on. And after preschool, you might wonder where our preschoolers go. But most of our students within our preschool move on to kindergarten within one of our Northborough or Southborough elementary schools. And all of our students start kindergarten with a very strong understanding of classroom expectations and routines, because our classes are very structured. And they also start kindergarten with a very firm foundation of social thinking, teaching about emotional regulation, which those are all skills that continue on from kindergarten up until the high school. The students that we have within the preschool that move on, it really helps us as preschool staff to help the kindergarten staff know the children that are coming up to kindergarten, helping them to get a better understanding of individual student needs and learning styles. And also we work a lot in collaboration with the different kindergarten teams to really help them to balance classrooms and things like that. For all of the children within our preschool, we also have a lot of discussions with parents around helping them to understand developmentally appropriate expectations for kindergarten. We have a lot of conversations about how it's okay that your child doesn't know all their letters before they go to kindergarten or can't write their name, and how best to prepare their child for kindergarten. So sharing different resources or tools or activities that they could do that would help them best get ready for kindergarten. So that's a little bit about our preschool. Thank you so much.
And I just want to add that it's been such a pleasure this year to see the opportunities for increased teamwork and collaboration, for all of our teachers to be together in one building and all of our specialists to be together in one building, because it really increases the amount of work that they can do together to strengthen students' curriculum and their needs. So it's been a pleasure.
I just have a couple of questions. So you said it's 97 students in the thing, and there's 5 different classrooms. So what's the teacher-student ratio? I know, it looked like a lot of
So we have a
specialists and
lot of,
things,
so
so-
even though we have 5 classrooms, we have a lot of different sessions.
Okay.
So some of our classrooms have 2 sessions because they have a morning and then they have an afternoon session. Our full-day model, obviously, currently, general education students and special education students are there in the morning, and then in the afternoon, it's special education students. But we have a very high staff-to-student ratio. So for every adult, all of our classrooms, the minimum staff they would have would be a special education teacher and 2 aides with no more than 15 students. And then some of our more intensive classrooms have a much higher
Heavier.
ratio. But it really depends on the model. They're all, even though we have 5 classrooms, they all look very different. Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. So do you have 3-year-old and 4-year-old rooms? Are they separate, or is it all
All of our
one?
classrooms are multi-aged, so they have 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and some 5-year-olds, depending on when their birthday is and what they
So I believe that you had said in your presentation that this year, because you've added the full-day model, now you've actually maxed out on space. Is that correct? Did I understand that correct?
So we haven't maxed out at space. We
Okay.
actually
On enrollment.
are
Okay.
starting relatively full. We've actually made some further changes more recently, just to really maximize the slots that we have available for general education students. So it's been a good problem to have, but we've been creative about how we can definitely maximize, and it's important that we don't start the school year totally full. So that's something we've thought about as well.
Do you foresee having this full-day option that's really appealing to families, having to add further preschool classrooms in the future, perhaps in the next few years?
I don't know, but I will say that the current response we have is pretty high, so that may be a very viable option.
And Jennifer does a lot of screenings throughout the school year, and that's different than the model that what has been done in the past. So with the multiple screenings, we know how many parents are interested in having their children attend. So we look at that model, we just went through it this year to see how we could move things around to maximize the general ed openings, and we will do that every year. And yes, if there is greater need, we do have to look at extra classrooms.
Great, thank you.
One more question. Tuition. So how does it work with the tuition? Is it just for the general? Is it partial for the?
So
How does-
if a child is participating in preschool through special education, there is no tuition for them.
Okay.
General education students do pay tuition.
Okay.
Based upon whatever their schedule is. There's different tuitions for different schedules.
Okay.
I did.
Sorry, Keith.
No, you're okay. The 97, is that just Northborough's portion of the enrollment? Is
That's
that
the total number of students.
What's the split across the two, across Southborough and Northborough approximately?
So there's a pretty even split between Northborough and Southborough students.
I'd like to thank you for your presentation and coming out after a long day of teaching. I was very pleased to see that even with the budget that Christine just presented to us, that even through that you were able to even increase some of the options, and which was really, really beneficial. And at the same time, the ELO, I think it's so important that you're capturing these kids and their parents at such a young age. And did you say that you currently have a preschool position for an ELO, or is that going to be next year?
That was added a few weeks ago.
Now,
Now.
So it's
Starting
now?
now, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I missed
Oh,
that.
wow. Based on, Christine?
Based on the need, Rhoda's in the audience too, I think she might be excited to talk to that very point, if the committee would allow Rhoda to mention the change. Yeah, she's in the back. Definite advocating for
I even
this.
wrote her name down here, so I'd have it handy. So thank you for coming.
You'd like me to address the question?
Sure.
That'd be great.
Right here, all right. The regulations from the Department of Education have also changed. And it was a great opportunity when there was an awareness from all of us to see the number of children that are coming to our preschool who have the gift of another language, to have someone that is working with the teams. And today we are all working together, actually. With a student who only speaks, mostly speaks another language, so that we don't misdiagnose children when it is that they know one language more than the other. So this new position in the preschool is allowing us really to help us accurately diagnose students who are dual language or emerging with two languages. So it's very timely that this has come through. And we're also now looking carefully at the regulations from the department. So it was good timing that this position has come into place. Yes.
Question? You know, you think about a school system as being K through 12. And that's where we say we are. And now it seems like we are encompassing preschool through K.
That's right.
Because even having that ELL position.
Yes.
So you're talking about how many, 20 different languages, correct?
Yes.
So that means that, and we have students that are on IEPs, so that means that at some of these IEP meetings, we have a new thing that we have to now have, is you may have to have translators at some of those IEP meetings.
Right, and the staff member, so we're looking at all that, exactly what you're saying. So the staff member that has been hired speaks Arabic and French. So, and we know that we have Arabic speakers, you know, in families with us. So that, we have Spanish speakers on staff as well, and Portuguese. So that is a way that we are also starting to reflect the families that we have in our communities, and we are able to better understand, because it's not just the language but the culture. And what Jen was talking about in bringing in, encompassing the whole child and the whole family. So that's our approach. And the department, of course, is asking us to screen the children for language proficiency as well. So we're putting all that in place as from a couple of weeks ago. Yes.
Wow, that's really wonderful.
And
I mean,
we know,
hats off to everybody.
And we know ahead of time when parents need translations, and we work very closely with
Right.
Rhoda and her department to make sure that the translators are there at the meetings when we need them.
Wow. That's really wonderful that we can still offer these services on the percent increase that we have, and we're not leaving any child left behind, which is absolutely wonderful. Congratulations. This makes me so excited for our districts and even love them more. Thank you. And Rhoda, thank you for your time. I don't know when you sleep now.
Thank you.
I have one last question.
Sorry.
Just as a former teacher, knowing that the students that will be coming to Northborough at the end of the, for September, that are now in Southborough, what is the transition from the preschool teachers to possibly the kindergarten teacher? I know that in special ed that's taken care of, but I'm concerned that I'm hoping it's not just passing a folder over. Do the preschool teachers come over to Northborough and speak?
We have student face sheets for all of our students, which include a lot of information individual to each student, whether they be a special education student or a general education student. In addition to that, the preschool teachers meet with different kindergarten teachers to share information. Sometimes kindergarten teachers from Northborough might come to Southborough to observe students in the preschool. So there's a lot of collaboration that happens to support that transition for every student that's involved.
That's good. That really is. That's most, that bridge has to take place there. And to the administration, I know how important it is when you have a teacher talking to another teacher, rather than just writing something down. It's most important to have those teachers to be talking about the transition of that student for a curriculum kindergarten program. So
Right. It first starts with Jennifer meeting with our principals to talk about the students that will be transitioning to their schools, and then the process is teacher to teacher. So, and we've started that process already.
We're well into that process.
Yes, we are.
it's April. You're starting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's getting shorter as the year moves on, and this evening we have the FY19 monthly general fund expenditure report. And again, this month, I would request a vote to approve until audited. I do want to point out something in the budget. You may notice that in the science curriculum material line item, there is an expenditure for an amount of money that exceeds what was necessarily identified. That was purposeful. This is actually a good thing. We were able to order the second phase of the science kits to support the curriculum. And that was done by really watching the budget, making a determination at what point we could afford to purchase those science kits in each of the schools. And we've been able to do that. So we have in all of our K-5s the curriculum resources necessary and instructional materials to support that new science framework that's in place. So I think that was a good thing and well received by all the principals. So we did place that order about a month ago. So those materials are in the classroom and being utilized by our kids. And we were able to do this without overspending on the operational budget. So that was planful, and we're happy that that was realized. Right now, we're in a good place in the budget, given that it's March. The fine weather has helped us out considerably, and we'll continue to be moving closer to closing out FY19 and FY20, beginning FY20.
Christine, what line item was that for the science
So
materials?
there'll be 4 different line items because there's one for each school. And so if we move to science, you're going to look on the 2411 fund code. So for example, on page 6, you'll notice science Proctor under supplies and materials. And then again, at Z, there's a science line item. And it's about an $8,400 amount. And on page 6, and you'll note again on backing up, page 5, so science at Lincoln Street, all approximately the same amount, designed to meet enrollment. And then again, you'll see the science at Peasley. So we did note that last year we were hopeful when we prepared this budget that we would be able to have some relief in the FY19 budget because of good weather and funds that were assigned to another line item, typically assigned for snow removal and those kinds of things. So we were hopeful and watchful, and we were able to make that purchase without overspending the associated budget.
So are these consumables that are in the science kits?
Good.
So there are 4 kits in the science curriculum. So it's life science, physical, earth and space, and science, technology, and engineering. The purchase was for earth and space, the last kit, and it includes curriculum and materials and resources to teach the unit.
Okay. So in other words, the materials that we bought will be able to be used next year.
Mhm.
So they just supplement. I didn't know if they were like plants, tadpoles, and sometimes things that sixth
Live
graders,
bugs.
live bugs, those things they do in the soda bottles. Okay, I thought maybe that was it, but no. Okay. All right, thank you.
I move that we accept the FY 2019 budget monthly general fund expenditure report as of March 31st, 2019, as presented.
I just have a question. So, why did the 3 schools have a $1,000 budget, but Z school didn't have anything budgeted for science? Was that just an oversight, or was
I
that
don't think
just?
it was an oversight. We actually sit down at the end of the year and look at
that might have just
line
been
item
something.
adjustments that need to be made to bring in a budget that's acceptable. In this case, really, the amount we were able to expend
Yeah.
far exceeded the amount that was budgeted, so we had anticipated that in building the budget. This is the second wave of kits, so I think we're fully, we have the instructional materials and curriculum materials to support the new curriculum in place for a couple years, and we're pleased about that. So. There are, Kelly, some fluctuations by line item. We try to have every line item in all 4 schools aligned. I think when you look at FY20's budget, we're pleased that any reductions that we had to make over the previous years, were fully funded to the extent that the principals had requested, and so in some cases, the line items actually increased for FY20, and that's a good thing. But even at that, because of enrollments and because of the materials that they already had in-house, and really in conversations with principals, there are some, I don't want to say inequities, because there's equity based on need and based on the budget itself, but there would be maybe some line items that would be slightly higher than the others, because there are some variations from school to school in terms of programs that they offer and materials that they had already on hand.
Thank you.
So we have a motion on the table that was seconded for the budget. Anyone follow the motion? No? So all those in favor?
Thank you. It is always on the agenda that we share the enrollments, and again, they are in your packet. But it is earlier than most of the past several years. This is the third year that we've been looking at implementing our class size policy, where we will be presenting the current status of what we perceive at this point to be capped classes. So we have begun the process after much conversation with the principals in process of implementing the class size policy. And as of April 1st, which was Monday, we have begun registrations at central office for those classes that we've already identified as potentially being capped. You'll notice that they are circled on the pink sheet, pink for spring. One color we don't use at Central, surprisingly enough. And there are fewer than in any of the past 3 years, as we predicted that it would sort of balance out as enrollment shifted. We are very watchful at Lincoln Street. We appreciate that we have a staffing model that may be adjusted based on enrollments. But again, this is very early in the process. In the past years, we really haven't had this discussion until the month of June. So there are a lot of shifts that will still continue to happen. As we know, we referred to this both years past, where we've said we've had 62 students move in over the summer. So this is a sort of early watchful eye of what we have right now in our schools proposed for next year. The kindergarten registration has been completed, but as we know, we always have new folks moving into the district as well. So each month we will be presenting this and an update as well. Changes happen over the summer. The letters and the notifications of assignments go out in August, so we'll be in close watch and contact with the parents that are new to our district. Probably the last time appearing in the packet is the budget calendar, because after the 22nd, we are pretty much through with the FY20 budget. And that would be town meeting on Monday, so that is in the packet. And hopefully on May 1st, we will be distributing the voted at town meeting budget. We also have 3 warrant articles moving forward at town meeting, and I do have the article numbers. Traditionally, a school committee member volunteers to read the article. We don't have the language. It will be distributed that night. But Article 6 is the Northborough K-8 budget. So there is a motion. Typically, there is a presentation by the superintendent. And, from my understanding and speaking with Don, that tradition will continue. So there'll be a brief presentation on the Northborough K-8 budget and a vote. So we would need a volunteer to read the K-8 budget. Okay, thank you. And the town is looking for this information. I assured them that we would get to it tonight. We also have the Article 19, which is a warrant article for K-8 schools communications and security enhancement. And we also have the regional.
She has
budget.
seniority.
Oh, that's okay.
Do you want rock, paper, scissors on this?
Yeah. No, give it to Kate, that's fine.
And Joan, we have the regional budget.
That one's for
Oh,
you.
I can do that one.
We saved that one for you.
Everyone's happy, see?
Thank
What number
you.
is the regional budget?
Article 7.
They go back to back.
So just to recap, Article 6 is the Northborough K-8, the motion read by Sue Lawrence. Article 7 is the regional school budget, to be read by Joan Frank. And Article 19 is the warrant article for K-8 schools communications and security enhancements, Keith LaBelle.
Madam Chair, can we just go back for 1 second? I just have a question. So when you put in the policy thing, is this because this is going to be up for review, or was this just an FYI with the referencing? Question, because it doesn't mention in here, and I know we've talked about it in the past, when a child gets redistricted, reschooled, goes to it, are they automatically allowed to stay at the school for the rest, or it's just a one-year thing and then they have to go back to their?
So this year, we actually sent letters of notification and had conversations with every family that was redistricted. And by policy, they have the option to remain at their neighborhood school or move to remain at the school they're currently enrolled in,
Okay.
or return to their neighborhood school.
Okay.
There are a couple exceptions. If there are siblings, the policy clearly states we do not divide siblings.
Okay.
So there's a choice then which school of enrollment, and sometimes that creates a little bit of a challenge, as it does in the summer. You know, a couple of years, I think we had 10 sets of twins, and it was very difficult to find space where, you know, the twins were able to remain together, but we did.
Yeah.
And the great thing about where we are right now is that we have room in most of our schools in most grades, so that reduces the amount that we might have to redistrict, but also that we have room in our classes across the K-5 schools. So we have places to place students, and we still have room for the most part in our neighborhood schools, and we're watchful at Lincoln. We also have kindergarten students are, because they've had 1 year in the system, are moved to their neighborhood school because they will remain there for the next 5 years. So that is an option. The only variable to that is if there are extenuating circumstances because of specialized services or programs that are housed in one school and not another, or because of sibling issues. We have historically, and even before the class size policy was in place, if a student was entering the 5th grade and it was, you know, their last year in the K-5, we would allow them to stay as opposed to move them to another school for just 1 year. So we do have that, and that's been something that's come up from time to time. So we would have a parent who might be moving from, you know, the Proctor district to the Z district.
They can
We would allow
stay
that
at
student to stay there
okay.
because it was, you know,
Best interest of the
it
child.
was in the best interest of the students, less disruptive. So those are the variables.
Okay, so kindergarten's the exception. So if you're displaced for the kindergarten year.
Redistrict.
Then they won't necessarily automatically get to stay.
Right. We have
Just-
exceptions,
okay.
as there all,
Yeah,
you know,
but
always
that's-
are. But
okay.
there are few exceptions.
Okay.
And we look at them and have an exchange of conversation about, you know, what is in the best interest of the child.
Mhm.
And there's a variety of circumstances that might present themselves where we would get involved in a conversation like that. But again, that's not the norm.
Okay. Thank you.
As a matter of curiosity, what do we see? Do we see a clear trend on whether people go back to their original neighborhood schools or stay? Is there any
Yeah,
assessment of that?
so this will be our third year. And so we've had 2 years of, you know, observation and practice. The first year, a lot of the students chose to stay. Last year, a lot of the students went back to their neighborhood schools. And when I say a lot, we really aren't redistricting, you know, 50 students. I think this year it might have been 15 or 20 max across all grades in all 5 schools, you know, 4 schools. So next week, we're going to be revisiting this topic as well. I can present the historical data then, and we can just review it. But again, this year, a lot of students we wanted to change. Which you see that, too, with the school distribution. So last year, Z was pretty much capped at all grade levels. And so some of those students chose to remain at Z, but the majority of students across the 4 schools returned to their neighborhood school. So I'll prepare some historical data and share that out next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Educational policy, policy development and distribution with first reads of bus transportation and homework policy. So, Greg?
So the policy subcommittee has been working on updating the bus transportation policy. So in front of you is the policy, and then behind the policy, the second page is the procedures and guidelines document. And basically, it articulates a lot of the procedures and guidelines that we followed but haven't memorialized in a document. So it speaks to route design, bus stop locations, walking distances, and so forth. We've worked closely with the Southborough Policy Subcommittee and the Regional Policy Subcommittee, so we have parity in our policy since we use the same transportation contractor for transportation.
So I see that just the very last part of the guidelines have been changed.
Yes.
Deleted. Was that,
So one of
what
the,
project?
so we did have a meeting with North Reading Transportation, and one of the points that they brought up is that it's very difficult for bus drivers to distinguish second, third, fourth, and fifth graders from each other. They could easily distinguish K and 1 riders, but after that, would be very hard for the bus drivers to know if a student was a second grader or a fifth grader. So they thought it was unrealistic. And obviously, this is a first read, so it's something that we could bring back to policy subcommittee and discuss further.
Just a quick question about the naming of the policies, not the naming, the numbering system. Is it typical for us to have like an I-240 and an E-240?
It is.
Okay.
Yep.
Mm.
It's the
I
category.
remember
of
having
policy.
two in front of me that had
Yeah.
the same number before.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so we'll bring this back next meeting for a second read, and any feedback you can email to the chair.
Has it already been accepted as is in?
No,
in
every.
Southborough or another district?
No, we're marching toward the last meeting in June.
Okay. Thank you.
Combined meeting. And the second policy for first read is the homework, I-190. So there was a homework study group that studied homework 16, 17, and presented its findings in the fall of 17. And this year, the policy subcommittee took up the homework policy. So we've made some updates to align to best practice and research. And we also separated policy from procedure and practice. So we created homework guidelines that reflect the work of the study group. And this has been looked at by principals. And again, this is our first read.
Since it states that it's guidelines, would it still stay as a policy? Or would we just eliminate that homework I-190?
We would, so this is the policy, and then the guidelines are referenced in the policy, so we'd keep the guidelines.
A reference.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was having the same.
Yeah, same, yeah, that's all that.
This just kind of goes with
it.
So this, a lot of work, so obviously you have the policy, and then a lot of work will, we'll need to do a lot of work with principals and our educators around the guidelines, so that there's consistency of practice.
Was there a thought that it would go in the student handbooks?
And yes, it would also be part of the student handbooks. But again, it's a first read, so any feedback and input, please let the chair know.
Just broadly or structurally about the way the policies fit together, we had the policy on religious absences. I don't remember which, probably not the right title. You know which?
Religious observances.
Observances. That speaks about homework in that context, correct?
Yeah.
We don't need to account for anything on this side since it's addressed.
Correct. We did reference it in the guidelines.
Oh, in the back?
On page 2 of the guidelines, we did
Oh, it is there.
cross-reference. So
Sure.
we thought that actually, that was a recent addition, Keith,
Okay.
so it was a good catch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. The distribution of approved policies that were approved at the last combined meeting. Staff and employees, and for subcommittee and student responsibilities. Moving on, we have audience sharing. If there's member for the audience that would like to share?
Wow.
This is your first time at the table,
Oh.
Susie.
Welcome.
Hi, Susie Sislika, 8 Emerson Road. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Community Affairs Committee first. We're doing a town cleanup on April 27th. Registration starts between, well, I guess pickup or registration between 7:30 a.m. and 10 a.m. We're going to have Cow from Chick-fil-A there handing out breakfast sandwiches. We have Dunkin', donuts, fruit, and the Northborough Conservation Committee is doing the poster contest, so someone will be there taking that. We just had a new emblem made by someone at this table, Kelly Gannett, and we might have a giveaway with something on it. So I'm also on Proctor School Council now, so we talked about having a Proctor team. You can go to our website and sign up to wear your school, spirit wear and everything, share pictures, get the kids excited. I believe on Sunday you may have received the flyer in your mailboxes, so if you could share and hang up. We're really trying to get high student participation because a lot of parents don't know about it. So we're just trying to, get a bigger feel in the community and the importance of Earth Day. We're doing the Textile Challenge right now at the school, so trying to end the month on a high note. And then I want to say thank you on the election. So I don't want to get emotional, but so, thank you.
Thank you.
This is just quick. Leslie Rutan, Board of Selectmen. I just wanted to thank you for having Chief Liver here and the town clerk. I think it's very important that we get as much press out there as we can about this. I don't want anyone showing up at their neighborhood school and saying, well, I guess it's not here, I'm going to go home. So that's important. So, and I was glad to hear that they are going to get notification out to residents and so forth, all residents, I believe, through the mail. And the other thing I wanted to call attention to is Susie. And I do think it's important to give credit where credit is due, and the fact that you brought up this issue early on. I know that this has been an ongoing discussion, but I think the fact that you mentioned it this fall brought the whole topic to the fore and stepped it up a notch. So I think it was great. You talked to me after one of the meetings here, and it kind of went from there as well. So I know it's been an ongoing discussion, but I think things like this need to happen. Parents need to speak up and talk about their concerns, and I think the resolution is fantastic. Our board voted on it this week. I think it's a wonderful resolution to this, especially if some of the days of voting can be, what did you say, professional development days? That just makes a whole lot of sense. But in talking to the town clerk before the meeting, the fact that even if it's in the gym and it's in the back and residents are going into that side entrance by the tennis courts, there are a lot of great ways to do this. So but anyway, thank you for having them in. I think that was great, Kristen. Thank you very much.
Can start. So as Susie mentioned, we've been actively engaged in the textile recycling. All of our schools are participating in it. And I know at Proctor we've had a tremendous response. Every day there's just bags upon bags of shoes and clothing and, bedding that's coming in. So I'm pretty confident that we're going to meet our goal of what we set with the school. And the kids have been really excited, sharing information about ways that recycling these materials will help our environment. So we've had a great response in all of our schools. And Proctor this Saturday, if you are looking for something really fun to do, we have our spring fair, which is Everything is Awesome at Proctor, which is every day, but we're going to take it to another level this Saturday with our Lego-themed fair. So Kelly's been actively involved in that and getting that ready. The PTO has put in many, many hours of work, so we're looking forward to a very, very fun day from 10 to 2. So stop on by if you want to check it out.
And I wanted to mention that we had a very well-attended and fun district math night. Mr. Martineau was there. A few of the other principals were there. District math night hosted by the district math coordinators. Lots of teachers were there volunteering their time to play games and just engage in some pretty cool math activities with children and their families. So it was very nice to see. And if you have another spare time on April 12th, which is next Friday morning at 9:10 a.m., Peasley School is having an all-school meeting with a special guest appearance by Olivia Francis, who is a singer-songwriter and local college student. She won an award for writing a song the year after she graduated from high school. She wrote a song last year to celebrate Random Acts of Kindness events in, I think, the winter of 2018. She was kind enough to share that song with us and allow us to teach our kids, and she has now agreed to come and sing it for the children. So we're looking forward to a nice visit with Olivia. And then on April 26th, we have a fun run coming up. The theme is Sprucing Up Peasley, and we are trying to work it into the theme of the townwide cleanup. So trying to coordinate both of those things together.
At Milliken, we had our musical March 22nd and 23rd after 3 months of rehearsals and a lot. 3 years. It was a good one.
This better be good.
It was 3 months, but anyway, Once on This Island Junior, and I'm always amazed by the talent and just the fun that the kids have. I did hear from somebody's grandparent one of the nights, we were there both nights, and the grandparent said, "This is better than any high school musical I've ever seen." So it was just a nice compliment, and I think it's a lot of hours, a lot of time that the kids and the families who are supporting the kids are putting in. Over 100 students participated. Algonquin lets us use their auditorium for the whole week before for sound, lighting, the microphones. And an Algonquin student runs the light board computer thing, whatever it's called, the nights of the show, and one of our 6th graders got to help him, and I said, "You think you could do this on your own?" And he said, "I could with a script." It just was nice just to see the kids involved backstage and in all kinds of ways. So it's just a really nice event. Very proud of the kids. Last Wednesday, we had our 5th grade parent orientation. That's always one of my favorite nights to welcome in the new parents. Very well attended. Our track, baseball, and softball seasons have started, and we're partnering with the rec department to maintain our softball and baseball fields. So that is going very well, and it's just another example of, I think, the partnership with the town.
At Z, I'll piggyback off of Michelle. We also did our play, The Lion King, in March, and that was great. It was a 2-night performance and 2 days, having 2 different casts on each of the nights. As you know, Alan Phelps had taken the year off, and we actually had an ESP in the building kind of stand up and take charge of the whole program and carry on the tradition of Z having a musical. So kudos to her for taking that on and the successful 2 nights of that program. In addition, in March, I thought it was really neat that a lot of the grade levels engaged in conversations and reading and discussions over the Iditarod race. Also asking for a PTO grant to be able to capture the race online and to watch it, and kind of cross-curricular activities with math for distance, geography for the location of the race, and ELA for some of the books, nonfiction books about the Iditarod dogs in the race. And in addition, PTO sponsored bringing the Iditarod group to the school, and with a nice snowfall outside, 2nd and 3rd grade each had an opportunity to go outside with the dogs and the trainers and learn about how they are trained, kept warm, safety throughout the whole race, and then they actually engaged in a simulation of a race. The children were tugging the teachers on the sled, so that was fun to watch. And then something that's presently happening, and we are in our 4th week of it, is Project Adventure at Z that Reagan DeSimone runs. For those of you that don't know what it is, our entire gym has been transformed into multiple climbing structures, and kids kindergarten through 5th grade are embracing that, and the amount of parent volunteers that are coming out being belay trained so that they can go in and support the students has been fabulous. So
It's been a busy month at Lincoln Street. It's hard to believe that we're already in April. And looking back at March, we had a very successful week last week with our Professional Development Day, as well as our parent-teacher conferences. So it's great to have all that time to collaborate with the community members, the families, and the teachers, allowing them time. We did partner up with the Z School for part of our Professional Development Day, and that was just great to be able to spend that time and collaborate together. We also had our Scholastic Book Fair put on by the PTO last week, so it's been busy. We have MCAS coming up next week, as well as we are kicking off our PAC week, which is PAC Assorted Colors for Kids. Our phys ed teacher partners with Kyle Parsons, the food service director, where kids are learning throughout the week. It's really focused on encouraging kids to eat different fruits and vegetables of different colors. They wear a different color each day of the week, and trying to promote them to eat healthy throughout the week, which ties in nicely with being prepared for the MCAS.
I would like to talk about the NSPAC, and their meeting in April is going to be on April 10th, Wednesday, April 10th, from 10 to 11:30. Their discussion at that meeting is going to be extended school year, and it's going to be at the Southborough Library, 25 Main Street. Also, the upcoming events they've got are the Reading Goals Workshop presented by Decoding Dyslexia Mass founder Nancy Dugan. It was rescheduled from the March meeting, and that is going to be on Saturday, April 13th at 1 p.m. at the Northborough Library. It's co-sponsored with the Westboro and the Shrewsbury's Parent Advisory Councils. And there's an email address to RSVP to at nspac1@gmail.com. And if you can RSVP to that by April 6th, they'd appreciate that. There's Go to the Distance night. That's going to be in May, on Thursday, May 16th, from 6 to 7:30. And that's at Algonquin. And the nominations will be accepted through this week, April 1st through April 12th. And let's see, the board officers election is also going to be in June, at their June meeting, and that will be at the Southborough Library location. So I think that's everything.
So I was able to attend the Northborough Junior Women's Club, their STEM, Women in STEM conference, which was great. I know that was open to middle school students. I saw a lot of Northborough students there. Some of my students from Marlborough went as well. It was just a great opportunity for young girls to learn more about careers, and I think it's a great opportunity that Northborough puts on, not just for Northborough, but for surrounding towns as well. They had over 250 girls there, many presenters, and it was just amazing. So great opportunity.
My turn. As a parent of Milliken and Z students, I want to thank all the staff and parent volunteers who contribute to both of the musicals as well as Project Adventure, because they're really rich experiences. So a lot of hands on deck to pull those things off, and a lot of support from administration, so thank you.
I have nothing to share, but I'd like to thank all the administrators and the parents out there for everything that you have said tonight. Just shows what a wonderful, well-rounded education we're giving to the kids. If it's how to be community workers and helpers and take care of our planet and the environment, to doing Project Adventure, and just besides the physical, it is the social and emotional attributes of kids, how they feel when they get to the top, sense of accomplishment and knowing that they can do something, and they could be scared about it, and all the support that the kids get, the music, everything like that. So we're really blessed to be in this community. But thank you very much for the parents and the administration and for everything that you do for the kids. Thank you.
Oh, ditto, Joe.
I actually have two things to share. One is a thank you to the Proctor school community. While our staff and administration was engaged in professional development in the month of March, our teachers were in session, the support that our parents provided for those 2 days where students were in session because of the event that occurred at the start of the school year, and Proctor was not in session and other students were. I think it really shows the spirit of the staff and really wanting to provide that continued positive environment for students. So those 2 days have been made up, and you will be out
On schedule.
June 17th.
Yes, we will.
The rest of us. It was close. The forecast, a couple weather forecast alerts last night about the weather, so it was close. And I'd also like to share that Rhoda is here, again, who may want to share a little bit about International Night. You have the invitations in front of you. And it's third year for International Night as well. I thought maybe you'd like to say a few words.
She knows
As
she
always,
wants
the
to.
colorful invitations.
So cute.
You're welcome. So this is our third year when we bring our communities, our families. It's a social gathering. Our families of English learners and the students that we have reclassified for the program, that are many at this point over the years. But it's a wonderful opportunity for our families to get to know each other. They establish friendships across our schools. Every family brings a dish that is one of their favorite from their culture or their country. And there are activities for students. It's really a time for us to get to know each other. That's the purpose, to make connections and to feel as a community. There isn't any other thing on the agenda but just to enjoy each other and establish more bonds across families, cultures, have fun. The photo booth is always a wonderful experience for families. They can leave with a photo of their family. And so you're invited to come and just meet some of our families that will be there at Algonquin Friday 26th.
I have a question. Is it open for all students, or is it geared more for the students that are enrolled with?
So we have about 300 families there. If we opened it to absolutely everybody, we wouldn't have space in the cafeteria.
That's what I was thinking, so
we might have to think about that. But so the at first it's going. The invitation goes out to the families who are in the English Language Development Program, and of course there's families that we have reclassified. So that means several hundred. But it's something to think about. We just need probably a larger venue.
Stadium, I think.
Probably. Or the parking lot, weather, if the weather helps. So you're welcome to come, just drop by, and have some fun.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So I too have 2 items to share. Dr. Barnhart mentioned the Family Math Night, and I just want to publicly thank Maggie McGinty, our K through 5 mathematics administrator, and Kathy Lazat, our K through 5 Southborough mathematics administrator, for all the attention to detail and hard work organizing that event. So just publicly thanking Maggie and Kathy for their hard work. And then just a quick reminder that this Friday is Team Trivia Night. So we have our team registered, and it's a great event to support Northborough Education Foundation, and it starts at 7 at Doubletree in Westborough, and the trivia contest will begin at 7:30. So looking forward to the event.
Are you going?
Do we have to do any kind of costumes or
We're going
what is
casual
that?
this year, no costumes.
Cash.
Trivia transitions.
I'm setting up for Proctor, the spring fair. I know.
So the next item we have, distribution of the personnel report is in your packets, along with communication, foundation commission letter.
These letter writing time, even though we approved the budget, the legislators have not yet. So we want to keep them apprised of how we're feeling about the changes that they should support in the budget. We're actually seeing some positive signs, again, for next year. There's an indication that circuit breaker might increase over the high number that we saw last year at 72%. So that would be much needed and well received. So writing those letters and being present when you can't physically be there is so important. So I have a couple for the committee to sign again. And then we have apple pie. early alert. And we do register our school district. One registration for all in.
I'm just gonna say, if it's 95 degrees again,
It was hot.
I am not pulling a wagon with my children in it. I'm not gonna do it. Putting it out there.
I'll pull the wagon.
I'm not gonna, a cooler of water and, not gonna do it this year.
So future agenda items, we have the school improvement plan and supervision, school choice. That's on your agenda already.
We're actually moving the school choice hearing up a month. We can certainly do that, and it's a procedural matter, open to the audience for input, but we have decided to move to May meeting.
We do that every year, right?
In June.
Yeah.
But we're doing it in May this.
Mhm. We have to submit by June 30, by, I think, June 15th.
Town meeting recap, and 2019-2020 subcommittee assignments.
There'll be an election before our next meeting, or after?
After.
Just after.
Just after. We may want to hold the subcommittee assignments to June.
I
With the
don't
new
think-
members.
Well, unless there's a write-in, I think Keith's the only one.
Okay.
He's unopposed.
And he's unopposed, right? That's what I'm saying, unless a write-in takes Keith over.
Good luck.
I think it should be the same. So that's up.
Good.
Okay.
Could we also have, you mentioned, because the MCAS testing will be starting, could you just give us an update on how it's going, especially when it's all, technology now and computer-based, just how's it going? So.
Go over payrolls, we'll pass on the line. Any other business before legally come to the committee?
Warrant articles, and warrants to be signed as well.
Letters to be signed. Next scheduled meeting is on Wednesday, the 1st.
I move that we adjourn the meeting of Wednesday, April the 3rd.
Second that motion. All in favor? Great, we're done. Have a good evening.
You too.